Good evening and welcome to the Development Management Committee. I'm Councillor Peter Gregg, the Chairman of the committee. Before we start the meeting, I need to make the public note, there's no public. May I ask the officers present to introduce themselves again, starting on my left.
Councillor Alan Taylor.
Councillor John Anderson.
Councillor Alan Acott.
Councillor Hannah Barton-Brown.
Councillor Kieran Balker.
Councillor Chas Mumford.
Councillor Jackie Thornton.
And Councillor Tom Skip.
Yeah, well, you could normally it's officers and then
Yeah,
town council. And
okay.
then members.
Sophie.
Sophie Adams, Senior Strategic Officer.
Stephen Garner, Planning Manager.
Cheryl Salmon, and I'll be taking the minutes.
Jason Bishop, Legal Advisor to the committee.
Town Council, please.
Councillor Steve Sage.
Thank you.
Councillor Andrew Thornton.
Thank you very much. Are there any members' interests?
Apologies. You've got to do apologies first.
Oh, apologies. Are there any apologies for absence?
Chairman, I have apologies from Councillor Riley.
Thank you. Are there any members' interests? No. Are the minutes for the Development Management Committee meeting held on the 7th of February 2023 agreed? Agreed? Thank you. There are no public speakers this evening. Item 1, Chapman Sand Sailing Club, Eastern Esplanade, Canvey Island Eastward. Right. I will now hand over to the planning officer.
Thank you, Chairman. So we only have one item this evening, and as the Chairman set out, it's at Chapman Sand Sailing Club in the Eastern Esplanade. It's to demolish the existing sailing clubhouse and replace it with 7 new dwellings. This application is a full application, so all matters are to be considered. This application is being presented to the committee as it is a departure from the adopted local plan in force, as the site is allocated for public open space. This is the site outlined in red. It's located on the northern side of Eastern Esplanade, with the seawall to the south. There's footpaths that run alongside the eastern side boundary and the western boundary, which are these ones here. We have houses that run along to the side facing Eastern Esplanade to the right. These are 2-storey dwellings, but the ground floors are slightly raised above ground level, so they're slightly taller than a normal 2-storey property. These are detached 2-storey properties onto Beach House Gardens, and they back onto the footpath. The properties here are 2 bungalows, and they front onto Westcliff Gardens. And these properties here, that's a semi-detached pair, of which they have rooms in the roof. And this one has a front dormer, and this one just has like a first floor side window. Over here is flats, known as Azona Gardens, with a 3-storey block to the front and 2-storey blocks to the rear. Here we have the aerial photograph, which kind of shows those properties that I've just been describing. This is a view of the site from the seawall. You can see at the front of the site that it's hard surface for car parking. Sorry, I'll go back. You can see at the front of the site it's hard surface for parking. There is a fenced enclosure with the sailing club towards the rear, which is a 1-storey flat roof building. There's a couple of storage containers also on site there. So this is, as you can see it from the seawall. As you can see here, that's those 2-storey properties that I said, with the ground floor slightly raised above natural ground level.
Can you speak up a little bit louder?
Sorry.
Thank you.
So this again, this is the front of the site, and you can see here where you can see that fence in there, and you can see the parking to the front. This is from, which is Westcliff Gardens. So you can see the bungalow on the right here, and this is the back of those properties onto Beach House Gardens and the footpath that runs down the side. This is from Dovercliff Road. So you can see here that you've got the semi-detached pair with the front dormer at the front here, and the site runs along down here with Designer Gardens here. This is the site more from the west, so you can see the three-storey Designer Gardens, that property that I've just mentioned here that was on Dovercliff Road, and the bungalows that are on Westcliff Gardens. And again, this is from the east. So this is the proposed development. We have 7 dwellings. At the front, we've got 3 properties, and they're 3-storey properties. Towards the rear, we have 4 properties that are 2-storey properties. This is a street scene elevations. So you can see here the 3-storey properties at the front, with that slightly raised 2-storey property over here, and the Designer Gardens here, so you can see it in context. This is, so you can see, that's the view from here. So this elevation is the view from here. So you can see inside the site. So you can see that those 2-storey properties are a lot lower. This is the side elevations. This is the side, as you'll see it from this footpath here, with the 3-storey property on the left, as you can see, and the lower 2-storey. This property has a detached garage, and then you can see that lower bungalow here that's in Westcliff Gardens. This is from the other side, which is Dovercliff Road. So you can see that property there, and you can see, again, the 2-storey one here and the 3-storey property here. So the 3 properties at the front all have a very similar layout. At ground floor, they've got like a garage, a store, and a utility room. And then they have bedrooms at first floor level, and then they have their main living accommodation, kitchen, dining, lounge on the 2nd floor. They have balconies at the front at 1st and 2nd floor level, and then a balcony at the rear just at 1st floor level. So that one's to plot 1. That's plot 2. As I say, it's a very similar layout. And plot 3 only differs by proposing a home gym where the store and utility room is. To the rear, you've got 2-storey properties which has an open plan living accommodation at ground floor level and a garage, and then the bedrooms at upper floor level. And that's the same for plots 5 and 6, and then plot 7 is the narrower property, and then they have a separate detached garage. They have submitted a drainage layout with the scheme. So the idea is that the surface water runoff would be held in these crates, and then there's a pumped station here that would pump it into the surface water drainage at a controlled rate. So this application is, as I mentioned, a departure from the adopted local plan because it's allocated as public open space. At the moment, it does not perform a public open space function as it is occupied by the vacated sailing club and the associated car park. It will result in essentially the loss of that recreational facility, which is a concern. However, we're aware that it was no longer being used as a recreational facility, and it was in a poor condition and previously found to have low membership, and found that it potentially be unattractive for other sailing clubs to come or to be used as another recreational facility. However, we have had no assessment in terms of whether it's a surplus to requirements, and for that reason we are attributing appropriate weight to the loss of that recreational facility. However, due to the council's current need for housing, we consider that's outweighed, that harm is outweighed by the need for housing, which is why it's recommended for approval. You will note on the tables that there is a late letter schedule. Following the production of the agenda, it became clear that Canvey Island Town Council had not been consulted on the application. So we consulted Canvey Island Town Council, and we want to thank their help for providing a response so quickly. So their response is that they have no objection, but they raise concerns in terms of the development. What exactly here? concerns that the new development design seemed small and cramped. However, from our analysis, when we dealt with the agenda, we feel that it meets with the Council's residential design guidance, so therefore we feel as if there will be no change to the recommendation tonight of approval. I'll open it up for any questions.
As this application is on Canvey Island, would the Canvey Island Town Council representative like to say anything?
Following the meeting of the Plan Committee on Monday the 6th of March 2023, the Town Council members discussed the planning application submitted and resolved they found no reason for objection. The committee had a concern that the new development design seemed small and cramped. That's it, thank you.
Okay. Before I move the recommendation, do members have any questions for the planning officer about the planning application? Please note this is a member's opportunity to seek clarification from the planning officer on any matters they are unclear of regarding the application. Members should refrain from making statements about their views on the proposal. These should be expressed in the debate section of the meeting. Are there any questions? Councillor Skip.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just have one question. Now, Policy 99 of the MPP states that assessment should be carried out to determine that this site is surplus to requirements, and none's been done. I understand your reason for that. Just wonder why you felt it wasn't necessary to carry an assessment. Are we just assuming that it is surplus to requirements?
Can I confirm whether you're referring to the public open space or the recreational facility? Because there's two different aspects there. Right, okay. So as part of the public open space, so at the moment the site has been used as a yacht club and their car parking facility, so it hasn't been open for the public to be able to use it in a normal way that public open space can be used. When open space appraisal was undertaken, this site was not actually mentioned as part of that appraisal. And while an update is proposed to this open space appraisal, there has been no change in terms of the use of the site, so it's still not available for the public to actually use it as public open space. So therefore we felt as if I considered it that the public open space therefore issue is it's not being used for public open space, and there is no opportunity to use it as public space at the moment, so there is no loss of public open space. And that's where I came to in terms of public open space. In terms of the recreational facility, the Sailing Club has vacated the site. It came to my attention that it's of a poor condition from a valuation report that was undertaken of the site prior to its sale. And this set out that the site was being more used as a private members club rather than as a recreational facility. They also said that it was in a poor state of repair and that there was a lack of membership. The valuers came to a conclusion that they felt that it wouldn't fare well in terms of getting another yacht club to be able to use the facility. And therefore that's why I've given that some weight. But as I say, no assessment has been done of the recreational facility. We did look in to see whether the building could be used for another recreational use, and we found that that it wasn't attractive to any other recreational use. So based on all that evidence, it indicates that it is surplus to requirements, but as no assessment has actually been undertaken, that's why we wanted to give it some weight regarding its loss. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you for your full explanation. Thank you.
Councillor Mumford, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. And a couple from me, Sophie. Under RDG 2, it says, in all appropriate cases, an adequate an adequate external access should be provided to the rear of dwellings. I can't quite see on the plan how that's achieved. And then under RDG 13, it's talking about communal refuse bin pickup point some 25 metres away. How's that going to work, and have we got an example in any other area where that is practised? And finally, obviously RDG 12, about parking, we seem to be -1 space here. And I understand this is an area of quite intense parking stress in the best of times. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. So in terms of RDG2, I've covered this in page 7 of the agenda. So plots 1 to 3, which are the ones at the front here, have all got 1 metre to each side, so they would be able to gain that access to the rear. Plots 4 to 6 have 1 metre to one side, so they'd be able to get external access to the rear. Okay. In terms of the refuse points, the refuse point is here. And that was 25 metres from here, so it was considered that refuse vehicles would be able to park here and be able to collect refuse, and that these properties would be able to place their refuse in this location to allow the refuse vehicles to collect it. This has been done in some other locations within the borough. And in terms of parking, these properties at the front here all have 1 hard surface parking space and a garage inside their property. These properties all have 1 parking space and a garage within the property. This property has a detached garage and then a parking space next to it. So each property has 2 parking spaces each. There is an additional visitor parking space here, in that one there. Yes, so the parking standards require 0.25 parking spaces, and that's rounded up. So for 7 properties, you would need 2 visitor parking spaces, but it's felt that that loss of 1 parking space would not be sufficient to justify refusing the application on that basis.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Aycock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not too sure whether this comes under this committee's remit, but as you can see from your map, Eastern Esplanade comes to a sharp end at the end there, and then you're into the fields, which is the main development area for the coastal regeneration of the sea wall. At the moment, there's very large lorries parking to get access to that site along the road, Eastern Esplanade, and they're quite heavy lorries, and I can say that residents are complaining to the Borough Council, the County Council and the contractor. There's a lot of the houses along that section are cracking, and sections of ceilings are falling down through the vibration. I'm aware that the work on the sea wall is during kind of the winter months. It's not going to take place during the summer months. But is there any way in which we can speak to the developer that they don't have large lorries going through there when the sea wall is being worked upon due to problems? I mean, some of the problems is down to the road, and Essex are aware of it, Essex County Council, but at the moment they've done nothing about it. But can we limit times of the year when the developer is working on the site, requiring things like lorry loads of concrete in heavy brick lorries full of bricks going onto the site? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
In the short answer, we can't control when they undertake the works. But this was a concern that we had because we were aware of the works the compound of the Environment Agency has to the side here. And that's why we have agreed with the applicant for a pre-commencement condition for a construction management plan to be submitted so that we can try and manage that potential disruption during construction happening at the same time that the Environment Agency works are going ahead.
Councillor Anderson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious. Could it be explained to me or to us the grid arrangement and the pumping arrangement to empty the water storage area? Is that grid arrangement for all 7 houses? And how is it supposed to work? Who operates the pump, etc., etc.? Please.
Just get up the drainage layout plan. Oops. So this is the drainage layout plan here. What we've got is attenuated catchment on site using geocellular crates, which are these. Can you see the kind of blue crosshatch sections? Which then directs any water from them to this circular thing here. Can you see the circular? Yep. So that's the packaged pumping station, which is going to control the discharge rate into the public sewer. In terms of the who controls that pumping station, I'm not quite sure. What that if it specifies in the strategy who actually controls that strategy, but that pumping station, but that could be something that we could maybe condition to get more details in terms of that particular aspect, if that's something that members is concerned about.
I think that would be a good idea.
Typically with this kind of thing, much like the larger estates where there's shared park spaces, woodlands potentially, there tends to be sort of like a yearly pay or monthly payment where it's for maintenance of the shared communal spaces. I would imagine under this circumstance that it would be something similar to that, where all of the occupants contribute towards a maintenance company because there's shared communal roadways which would need repairing potentially in the future, and other communal facilities. So I'd imagine that the pumping station would be maintained in that way, but if members are that way inclined to request some additional information for it, we can certainly find that out.
Yes, please. I would like that as a condition.
Councillor Aycock.
Sorry. I'll just point out now, I know we're in the question sections, but when we get to the debate section, if you want to move an additional condition, you'll need to formally move that.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Aycock.
Thank you, Chairman. Regarding this water storage tank, wouldn't a siphon system be better, where you had a pipe go into the tank and go down into the tank to a distance, and then when the water gets up to the top of the pipe, it will then siphon itself out, so you wouldn't have to have a pump or somehow get the residents to pay towards the electricity to use the pump. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay.
It's the drainage scheme that they've proposed. We're obviously not the drainage experts. If there's a mechanical sort of with less maintenance, then I'm sure that's something that the applicant could potentially look at. But if they're proposing a pump to us, then it's kind of what we're going to look at and consider.
Are there any further questions at all? No? Right, the planning officer's recommendation is that the planning application be approved, subject to the conditions as set out in the report before you. For the purposes of debate, I move the recommendation. Please note that members will have one opportunity to speak during the debate section of this meeting. Who would like to speak first? Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'd like a condition added about the pumping arrangement doesn't seem to be very clear, and I think the council should be asking the developer exactly how it's going to work. And also, there's going to be an on-course to people moving into these houses, so I'd like that condition added, please.
Right, who would like to second that, please? Councillor Hannah-Barber.
And then the committee will need to vote to include the amendment to change
Right.
it.
Would you all like to vote on that, please?
So who's in favour of
Who's in
including that-
favour
of that amendment?
of that
1,
amendment?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, those again? So it's included.
Who's two? They just
Presuming you're
abstained.
yeah, 2 abstention.
Okay,
So now we move forward on that basis. That
okay.
included.
Right. What happens now?
Does
Do we
anyone else
do-
want to speak?
Does anybody else want to speak at all? Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Mumford, sorry.
I mean, this site has been a bit of an eyesore for a long time, and I think it's great that a proposal has come forward to put some well-deserved and needed housing on here. However, I once again have a real problem with parking issues, and it just seems to me that we've missed a great opportunity here. It's an area of high parking stress. Why on earth we go for the minimum again? Well, we've missed the minimum, to be perfectly honest. We've got 5 4-bedroom houses here and 2 3-bedroom houses. Now, the size of these families and occupancy of these houses is going to be quite considerable. And to have an under provision of parking, to me, unfortunately, in this area, once again, is a deal breaker, I'm afraid. And I think we really need, when we have these applications coming in future, to make sure that at least the minimum parking standards are achieved. And I think we do our residents a big disservice if we don't do that. Thank you.
Councillor Skip, please.
Yeah, same. I won't go into a long explanation because my colleague has covered that, but same thing, parking issues. Now, again, we've accepted the absolute minimum possible for this site. The 2, 3 and 4-bedroom houses, they're likely to have a large uptick on car park than is available, and it hasn't even met our minimum standard, so I have some severe reservations on that one as well.
Anybody else wish to speak? Okay. Members, the motion before you is for approval. May I have a show of hands, please?
Subject to Councillor Anderson's amendment. Sorry, just to make clear, it's
Yeah,
for approval as per the report
what was that?
plus
Say that again.
Councillor Anderson's
With
amendment.
Councillor
regarding the
Anderson's
public
amendment,
arrangements.
please.
Those in
Show of
favour?
hands.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4.
Uh,
Did you vote?
That was 4. Oh, sorry, no,
You've right. Okay,
Yep.
6. And then against. 1, 2. Against. And abstentions. 1.
Okay. The application is approved. Thank you very much. The meeting is now, the business for this meeting is now finished. Thank you very much for your attendance and have a safe journey home.